It is Jets' final drive. Zack, when we started this show, if you would have told me that we would be 2 weeks from Halloween and the Jets would still be winless, I would have told you were absolutely asinine because of the talent on this roster and everything like that. But that is exactly where we find ourselves. After the Jets lost to the Carolina Panthers, who I was in no way, shape, or form impressed with after watching that game back, score 13-6. The Jets haven't scored an offensive touchdown in 2 weeks. He keeps getting worse and worse and worse. But Zack, you're back from across the pond. You had to sit through that game at MetLife Stadium. I don't think many other people did because the pictures looked like it was absolutely empty. But other than that, buddy, week away from JFD, now you're back. How you feeling?
I feel great. I feel refreshed. I appreciate Andy subbing in for me. Had some nice Belgian beer, waffles, and fries, and got away from you for a week. Are the waffles as good
as advertised? Are the waffles like that good?
So there's two different kinds of waffles they have, and there's one called a Liege waffle, which is a really good one, and the Belgian one is a little like fluffier, and I didn't like it as much. But yeah, they were pretty good, and you get like sweet stuff on them, and yeah, it was great. Belgium's a good time, but I'm back to watch some, just NFL football, if that's what you call this, and unfortunately, I have to go to Cincinnati with the Jets at 0-7, and I did not see that
ribs,
coming. I guess
there's that restaurant over there.
I've never been.
Yeah, so I'll send you. I got to look up the place again, but there's and maybe a commenter can actually chime in here for anyone who's been to Cincinnati. There's this restaurant there that's famous for their baby back ribs. So I highly recommend you going there. That's actually the infamous place where after that dinner, I accidentally texted Rich Cimini when I wasn't supposed to text Rich Cimini, like a text about Rich for somebody else, like nothing bad about Rich. I just said something at dinner. I was like, I probably shouldn't have said that in front of Rich, and I sent that text message directly to Rich. So that was one of my big mess-ups. Anyway, Zack, we're going to dive right into this. Like I said, the Jets are now 0-7. They lost to the Panthers 13-6. Our first topic is what we learned from Sunday, presented by Monmouth University, the greatest university in all of the land. Only excellence comes from Monmouth University. That's not actually their tagline, but I think that it should be. I'll let you go first, Zack. What did you learn from Sunday's loss to the Panthers?
So I'll combine Sunday with today, and I'll say I learned that Justin Fields has no business being out there as the Jets quarterback. And what I'll say is how that applies to today is Woody Johnson spoke today. I was at the NFL owners meetings in New York.
Oh boy,
and just to give a real quick background on what happened, Woody walks in. He's one of the last owners to walk in for like the 1 p.m. start time, and he's like, I have nothing to say. And then proceeds to answer questions for like 8 minutes from like a sea of reporters. And he was never asked directly about Justin Fields, but he went out of his way to say, pretty much that we're not winning because our quarterback isn't completing passes. And so, like, if you needed any evidence that Fields is probably not going to be playing next week, and Woody insists that he's not a part of the decision, and that's probably true. I think it is Aaron Glenn making the decision ultimately. I didn't walk out of there thinking that Justin Fields was going to be starting another game for the Jets, so I'll say that. But Fields, you hit it on the head last week where you said like by halftime if he's still playing this poorly, you can't stay with him. And they listened to Connor Hughes, so they benched him at halftime. It was deserved. Like he was awful in that first half, just as bad as he was the week before. He just seems like scared to play quarterback, and so they had to go to Tyrod, who wasn't a lot better, but he was moving the ball at least.
That was a big what have you learned. We usually try to keep that in one sentence. So we're gonna ask. You took a week off and just completely and totally fell apart. What I have learned, what we have learned by I have learned, is that the Jets cannot look past any opponent at all. There's no more of that. I don't think they should have been doing that anyway, but it's natural. You look at a schedule and you say these games are going to be really tough, and boom, these games right here are the ones that the Jets can potentially win. You felt that about the Dallas Cowboys. They got their teeth kicked in. You felt that about the Miami Dolphins. That game was in no way, shape, or form as close as the scoreboard might indicate. You felt that way about the Carolina Panthers, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Cleveland Browns, who were coming up after the bye. And I will tell you that no time for the rest of this year can the Jets look at any opponent and say, we should win that game. It's over. Every single other team can look at the Jets that way, but this team is poorly coached. This team is poorly disciplined. This team has playmakers that are playing well below their talent level, and the result is a team that has the worst record in the NFL, the worst record the Jets have had since the 2020 disaster of a season, and they are the only team in the NFL without a win. So the days of looking at a schedule and thinking, oh, maybe they'll win this one, maybe they'll win that one, no. There's no maybe wins until the Jets actually win a game. And Zach, I do not know where that win could potentially be coming on their schedule, because the Cincinnati Bengals, I think, beat them. The Cleveland Browns, that ridiculous defense, beat them. Maybe the Miami Dolphins on the repeat, but other than that, you cannot look at any game and expect they're going to win. All right, that's going to do it for What Have We Learned from the greatest university in all the land, Monmouth University. Zach, we took, I want to say, like a two-episode break maybe of starting the show with the quarterback. We were talking defense for a little bit. We were talking Aaron Glenn. We're back to talking the quarterback again. I find what transpired on Sunday from afar very comical, because I was ripped pretty good for backing Aaron Glenn's decision to stick with Justin Fields. Totally agreed with that. Stick with him. He went through the gauntlet of competition. The next 3 games for the Jets are supposed to be the easier games that they're going to play. Let Justin Fields get an opportunity. I felt that if Justin Fields went out there against the Panthers and he struggled, then they need to pull the trigger, and they need to move on to Tyrod Taylor, and they need to just end this Justin Fields experiment. I did not believe that they were doing this too abruptly. He was given 7 starts to prove, or 6 starts because he missed 1 game, to prove that he can be this team's starting quarterback. Aside from the 1 game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he has been varying degrees of very, very bad in those games. There are people within the locker room that feel and believe that Tyrod Taylor is their better quarterback. Very clearly, one of those people within the organization is owner Woody Johnson, who does not believe in any way, shape, or form that Justin Fields can be this team's starting quarterback. The Jets are probably going to turn to Tyrod Taylor. All signs point to that. I think what is so puzzling to me, though, about Fields, Zach, and I'm curious your take on this, is that what Woody Johnson said about him, what we have seen from him specifically in the last 2 weeks, Fields isn't this bad. He's playing at a Zach Wilson inept liability level of play. He was not this bad throughout training camp. He wasn't this bad in the opener against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wasn't this bad. Well, yeah, actually he was that bad against the Buffalo Bills, but he's never been this terrible of a quarterback. He literally is unplayable at this point. There's something broken within him, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse to the point where the Jets have to go to Tyrod Taylor. Not only because Tyrod Taylor is better, they can't put Fields out there anymore.
I mean, I think Zach Wilson is the comparison. Like, this feels like when Zach Wilson lost all of his confidence. Like, Zach had his problems as a thrower, as a processor, all that stuff. But then at a certain point, he completely lost his confidence, especially you think about that Jaguars game in 2022 where he gets benched for Chris Streveler. Like, that was the low point. And it feels like it here where Justin Fields is just completely in his head to the point where he's scared to throw the ball. Like, you cannot be an NFL quarterback while being scared to throw it. And they tried to get him on the move a little bit more. He was running a little bit, but it still was, he was kind of like in the pocket. There wasn't a lot of, I don't know that the play calling was great around him, but it's hard to play call for a quarterback that won't throw the ball. And, he threw it deep. The one play where Arian Smith is being double teamed down the field and Justin Fields kind of throws it into double coverage, not anywhere near him, so it just falls incomplete. And when he's asked about it after the game, he's like, why weren't you throwing it deep? He's like, well, they only called 1 deep shot. So I don't know what Justin Fields, what's in his head, why he became so nervous, why he became so scared to throw the ball, but like, you can't keep him out there if he's scared. And that's why you go into halftime with 40 passing yards. That's why you end a game with negative passing yards. When your quarterback is not willing to throw the ball down the field, not even down the field, literally like in front of you more than 5 yards. Like, I saw a stat on True Media. I was looking it up after the game. He's last among all quarterbacks in the NFL in percentage of throws at or beyond the sticks, meaning he does not throw it to the first down marker or beyond it ever. Like, that just shows you that he's a quarterback that is scared of doing anything. And so that's where it ends. Like, you make a great point. Like, he's not this bad. Like, you could say what you want about Justin Fields. He's not a starting quarterback, whatever. We saw what he's capable of at his best in week 1. We've seen him at his worst. But, like, this is below his worst. Like, that's why it's kind of shocking. This kind of happens to Jets quarterbacks at a certain point. They kind of, fall apart a little bit, and that's where he's at.
And the one play that's going to stand out to me is Fields is a player who doesn't show a lot of emotion on the field. And I was in Denver watching the Giants debacle. You were covering the game in person, but I was watching the Jets game on my tablet before the Giants kicked off. That play at the end of the first half, Zach, where he takes the sack, and Aaron Glenn, even though, 7 days before, wanted to throw a Hail Mary at the end of the half, now suddenly he flip-flops and doesn't want. I'm going to go crazy talking about Aaron Glenn, but he came off the field, Fields did, as fiery and furious as I've ever seen him. I mean, the helmet was off, clearly angry, immediately sat down on the bench, looking at the tablet. He was pissed, and then he never went back in the game. I will say that the funny thing about this is that you and I were texting earlier today, and we both kind of thought that the Jets were going to go to Tyrod Taylor. Once you pull the plug on a quarterback, you can't really go back to him like that. And with the way the Fields have been playing, you kind of had to. But you and I both said, Aaron Glenn coming out and making the comment about he was going to call other coaches to see how they handled quarterbacking situations. Look, we're at a point right now where people are really piling on Glenn no matter what. Some of that you want to pull off on. This is something that I do find. I like him calling coaches to see how did you handle losing streaks, how did you do this, how did you do that. When it comes to your team and you need to call somebody else to ask them how they handled a quarterback switch, how did you know? You need to know. You're in the building every single day. You're watching the film. You see Justin Fields. You see Tyrod Taylor. You don't need to call Bill Parcells. You don't need to call whoever he's calling to be like, oh, how did you handle it? When do you know how to? You should know that. Like this is a time where if you're calling all these people and you can't even decide by yourself or by working entirely with just your staff that you've put in place, because remember, these are Aaron Glenn's hand-picked assistants, hand-picked coaches, hand-picked everything. He can't just rely on those guys to figure out if it's time to switch to another quarterback. You absolutely should be able to figure out if it's time to switch to another quarterback. That to me is just like mind-blowing. I do think though that it's the right time. It is just a broken, defeated, losing quarterback. And you should not have to call anybody else to figure out if you need to make that. I don't know if you found that as weird as I did. I don't know if that was just a me thing.
I just think it just speaks to the larger point of it feels like he's learning on the job. I'm in not halftime, but to go to the post game in London where he's getting mad about being questioned about the idea of benching Justin Fields, and then he does it 2 quarters later, and then now he's saying he needs to talk to some mentors about, when or how he should handle this situation. Like it just speaks to a coach that's figuring out how to do the job on the job, and that's I think a part of the reason why they're at where they're at, where they look unprepared a lot of these weeks, where they don't look like they're well coached, and so it all ties back to that, and Justin Fields, it has to be said, like, this was his choice. This was his hand-picked quarterback. This is the guy he wanted right away. Like, he knew he wanted Justin Fields when he took this job because he was a big Justin Fields guy, because he's, like a lot of defensive coaches, he likes mobile quarterbacks. It's like their downfall almost. They, focus on mobile quarterbacks. He went against him when he was with the Bears, and Fields played pretty well against the Lions. Yeah. And so he thought he was the quarterback that we could bring in. We could let him play quarterback was the thing that Aaron Glenn kept saying. Like, we're going to be the first ones to let him play quarterback.
Lot, and we're going to get to that later. Like
But that one in particular is meaningful now, because if you just look at the way they were calling plays around him, the way they were running the offense, even the way they just decided to be an all running team all the time was their method. Like, they didn't actually let him play quarterback, and the reason why you didn't is because they realized that he's not very good at playing quarterback. So
which everyone knew, man.
And I will say, just real quick, I don't blame them for paying for the lottery ticket for Justin Fields. I don't even blame them for paying them what he did, because $20 million for this year, if he's your starting quarterback, it didn't work out. It's not going to hamstring you for a long time. The idea is maybe he can be our Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield. A lot of evidence he wouldn't, but I get the idea. He's a young quarterback. We don't have anyone in the building that we can build around. So I do not blame them for making him the target. It just didn't work out. You have to accept defeat and move forward.
This is one thing I will say, Zach, that I'm very fascinated to get your opinion on. So I appreciate anytime somebody speaks honestly, because it's better than lying, and it's better than just trying to read between the lines. You actually get an understanding of how they feel about a particular topic. Did not expect Woody to be as as brash and at times vicious regarding Justin Fields, but it's all accurate. It's all true. It's all, everything he said is, I don't think Justin Fields is entirely why the Jets are 0-7. I think Aaron Glenn deserves a lot of the blame. But if you're Justin Fields, and real quick, and then we're going to move on here to some other stuff we got to talk about. If you're Justin Fields and you're sitting at home and suddenly your phone starts popping and popping and popping with those quotes that came out of the owners' meetings from Woody on Fields, and you were there, Zach, listening to it. I was here, but you were in New York listening to this firsthand. When those get back to Justin Fields, and Fields hears those things, wouldn't he want to just go, like this is the highest level of the organization who very clearly does not believe in him at all and is very clearly ready to just move on, and a large part putting a lot of, if not all the blame for them being 0-7 on Justin Fields. If you're Fields and you hear that, don't you want to be like, you know what, dude, appreciate it, but let's cut me, trade me, move on from me, I'm done. I don't want to be here. I think that we could have some drama coming down the line here with the quarterback after hearing some of those comments specifically about him, which were accurate, but an attack. I mean, it was an attack.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Justin Fields does seem like someone who generally tries to avoid controversy, but I don't think he's ever been confronted with this kind of situation. I was actually thinking I don't know. I feel like there are teams that could actually the Ravens might be better off with Justin Fields than Cooper Rush at quarterback. Frankly, for a team that has an offense built around a mobile quarterback, why not go and trade for Justin Fields and pay him $10 million next year and however much they owe him the rest of this year? I don't know. I think that's a thought I had today. But yeah, tomorrow, Wednesday, is going to be very interesting when Aaron Glenn if Fields talks. I don't know if they're going to announce the starter tomorrow.
They will, because you don't want the flip-flop. You don't want the uncertainty.
Yeah.
You want the players to know, the guys to know. You can take a receiver up to the line. You can't take a quarterback. You got to make that decision Wednesday.
Yeah, I agree. So tomorrow's going to be interesting in terms of the comments. But, at the end of the day, Woody's the one at the top of the organization. He has a right to his opinions. I didn't expect him to say that specifically. But the truth is, I mean, he's right about Fields. They haven't been able to complete passes, and that's why their offense isn't good. But you don't expect to hear that sometimes from the owner. So, but I'm very curious to see what the next step is. What happens, if and when he does get benched? A lot of times when teams bench the quarterback, they make them third string. Are they going to do that with Justin Fields? Are they going to make Brady Cook the number 2, or are they going to keep rolling with Fields with a decent chance that he has to play again because Tyrod Taylor gets hurt all the time? So, that's going to be an interesting factor in all this.
We appreciate everywhere you guys are watching us, listening to us, all that stuff. If that is X, we love you guys there. If that's Facebook, we love you guys there. SNY.TV, obviously. But the place to be, and we say this all the time, it is YouTube. And the benefit of being on YouTube is, aside from the fact you're going to subscribe to SNY's YouTube channel, get access to all of those other SNY content like the Putback with Ian Begley. Nick's about to start, so you guys are going to want to be locked in on that. Is you get to interact with the show throughout the show with our comment section, and you can have questions, comments, concerns, all that fun stuff. So make sure you guys, if you're watching us, X, SNY, Facebook, anything like that, transition if you can over to YouTube just so you can take advantage of that comment section. Brian Pincus, who's producing this episode for us, back in the studio, is going to keep me privy on my phone of some of those questions, comments, concerns you guys have, and we'll address them throughout the show. One concern I think we do have, Zach, or potentially a concern here, is Tanner Engstrand. I don't know, genuinely. This isn't hyperbole. I think this is pretty accurate. I have not been higher on an offensive play caller that the Jets employed like I was for Engstrand after the opener to the Pittsburgh Steelers since Mike LaFleur. Since teams were literally stealing ideas and stealing plays from the Jets and Mike LaFleur's playbook that he was putting out there with some of the trickeration he was creating. And I was like, holy crap, the Jets have somebody that people want to model their game after. When was the last time you could make an argument about that? Engstrand was as close to that. Guys were schemed open. There was creativity. Justin Fields was playing great. There was dinks and dunks, but also the deep shots. The running game was working. You really felt like they finally had a guy on the sideline that they could trust in until ultimately someone was going to pick him away to be their head coach. I genuinely believed that after the opener. The slow and methodical deterioration from the Jets since that opener against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they had 394 total yards and 32 points. Zack, in the 6 weeks since, they're averaging 233.5 yards per game and just 14.6 points per game. They have 0 touchdowns in their last 2 games and just 15 total points and 302 total yards. It's getting bad. And I understand that they're down players. Justin Fields is not playing particularly well. They lost Braylon Allen. Elijah Vera Tucker went down before the opener. But injuries happen in the NFL. Injuries happen across the NFL. When you have an innovative offensive mind, like I felt the Jets had, you figure out ways to manufacture offense when you can't just get offense by lining guys up, going mano-a-mano and saying we're more talented than you, we're going to make plays because of that. Where's the creativity to try to scheme people open without Garrett Wilson? Where Breece Hall, who we saw so often split wide during training camp as a receiver with Braylon Allen in the backfield, they still value Isaiah Davis. Why not have Isaiah Davis in the backfield and Breece Hall playing slot, or Breece Hall playing the X, or Breece Hall being out wide while you move other guys around? It feels it's become so boring, and I don't know if it's just because of the ineptitude at the quarterback spot, but I've been woefully unimpressed the last 6 weeks with Tanner, and it doesn't feel like it's getting any better.
Yeah, the Breece part of it is, I think, the most. It's one of the more. It's like this. It's with every staff. It's like we deal with this where they talk about how they're going to get him the ball in the passing game, they don't do it. Like I tweeted a stat the other day, where if you look at the routes he's run this year, he ranks something like 16th or 17th among running backs in routes run. At this time last year, he was number 1 in the NFL in routes run by a running back. So they're using him as a running back less. He's been targeted on screens like 1% of the time, which ranks like 40th among among running backs that qualify. And they're just not using him in the way that they're supposed to. It's like the Nate Hackett from 2023, where Nate Hackett, like in week 10, was like, "Yeah, I just discovered that Breece Hall can catch the ball." So it feels like we're doing that all over again, and it's infuriating because that's like a way you beat the blitz. And Breece actually had a funny quote about this. You and I were joking about this after the game. I think we have the clip where he was asked about the play calling, and this was his response, because I want to talk about it.
Like I said, younger me, I could have been complaining or whatever the case may be, but obviously I want more. I want to be able to really showcase what I could do. But as a team, we're not where we need to be yet, so we need to continue to play together and figure out how we can win games.
I just love him, him kind of subtly complaining by not doing it, but he's like, younger me would have complained about the fact that you're not giving me the ball at all. But I'm grown up now, and I will not complain about the fact that you're not giving me the ball. They're not using him right. I mean, he didn't run the ball great, but they're back in the stage where the other team knows they're going to run it, so they're stacking the box because there's no threat of the pass. And
then get creative.
I know, that's my point, though. They're not. This coaching staff is not. Steve Wilkes, to his credit, is. We're going to get into that. But the offense, they're not counteracting what the defense is showing you. Part of that's the quarterback, and I think you saw that with LaFleur. I know you've talked about it a lot. Yeah. When Zach Wilson was out there, he didn't seem as creative as when he had competent quarterback play. So I guess we have to give Tanner Engstrand a chance to have competent quarterback play, but the NFL waits for no man. So, if he can't figure out a good offense, at some point the offensive coordinator is often the first one blamed outside of the quarterback when it comes to an offense not working. And so Tanner Engstrand's a first-year offensive coordinator. He started off well. He has not done a good job of adjusting. That's a fact.
But that's the thing, is like when this kind of goes back to the bigger Justin Fields picture, is that the Bears were not a dysfunctional, horrific offense with Justin Fields. They weren't good. Justin Fields wasn't good. But there were people that legitimately in Chicago wanted to keep Justin Fields and not move on from him when they made the decision to draft Caleb Williams. So it shows you what you kind of saw the flashes of from Fields. It's been none of that since the opener. And the 49ers, and I know Kyle Shanahan's like brilliant and all, but they're down so many people. And it seems like they still go out there and throw out a functional, working NFL offense. And when they lose one piece, whether it's CMC or whether it's Pearsall or whoever they lose at different points in time, Juwan Jennings, all these guys, they figure out ways to make it work because they get creative. And I can't sit here. I know the argument that if I get hit up by somebody at the Jets, or if Aaron Glenn ever decided to have a nice relationship with the media and we could talk about it off the record, it'd be like, well, what would you do? I don't know. But that's why I'm sitting here in front of a camera talking and not making millions of dollars as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. Guys figure it out. you have to figure out. You have to get creative. You have to find a way to get through to your quarterback or with Tyrod Taylor or get guys open. And there were times that you see guys open, but it's just not consistent enough. And I never see anything that's creative. And it goes down to this deep, deep-rooted issue with the Jets where it feels like if they do not line up in front of somebody who they are more talented than, they never have a schematic advantage over anybody. And we're going to get to that in a bit. Zach, I got to shout out Rich Cimini because he dug up these stats. The most, and this is going to lead into my final question for you on this topic. This is wild. So the Jets have 7 total touchdowns in their last 6 games. 7. That's already really, really bad. Not good. 0 of those touchdowns have come in the first half. So the Jets have not scored a single touchdown in the first half in their last 6 games. They have 1 touchdown in the third quarter, which was Fields' remarkable scramble against the Dolphins. That was 4th down too, right? Like he should have been stopped.
That was his best play of the season, and he hasn't replicated that since.
That and the touchdown to Garrett, the long touchdown to Garrett, that was really pretty as well. Yeah. The Jets have 6 of those touchdowns. 6 of those 7 touchdowns were scored in the fourth quarter. This is the real kicker. All of those 6 touchdowns were scored by the Jets when they were trailing by at least 13 points, and 4 of them came in the final 4 minutes of the game with basically everything decided. Aaron Glenn likes to point towards Dan Campbell and tell everybody that everything's going to be fine because look at how the Lions are the best team or arguably the best team in the NFC, and the Jets are going to be that as well because the Jets apparently are going to draft all the unbelievable all-star players that the Lions did as well in the ensuing drafts is how the Jets are going to turn it around. But the underrated, low-key aspect of that people forget, left hand up, I am one of those people. I completely forgot that this was the case. I did not realize Ben Johnson didn't come with Dan Campbell to start in Detroit.
Oh, no. No, he didn't. Yeah.
Did not realize that. So he made a coaching staff change after 1 year. I think it was Anthony Lynn, right? Was the offensive coordinator?
It was actually during that first season. He fired him during the season, and then Campbell took over play calling. But yeah, then Ben Johnson came in after the season. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you make the change. He made the change. He saw something wasn't working. He moved on, and I think it was Anthony Lynn, if I'm not mistaken, was his offensive coordinator.
It was, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
former Jets running backs coach, A-Len, and Chargers coach. So a respected coach, like a very well-respected coach in the NFL, fires him, brings in Ben Johnson, and then the Lions offense and Jared Goff and everyone takes off. Do you think that could happen here with Tanner? I personally say no, I'm not willing to go there yet. But we've seen Woody have a quick trigger finger when he's made. I mean, he's the reason why Mike LaFleur got fired. So, I mean, we've seen these things before. Do you think it could happen again? History repeat itself, both with Detroit?
I wouldn't say 100% no to anything, but I think if you end the season in this direction that they're going, and you end the season in this, their passing offense, I believe they're averaging 140 passing yards a game. They're on pace for, I believe, 2,400 passing yards in a full season, which seems impossible to have that few passing yards in a full season. Like all those factors, like I said, a lot of times, like 3 people get blamed when things go wrong, especially if the offense is bad, and it's the head coach, the quarterback, and the offensive coordinator. And so somebody needs to be the fall guy. Justin Fields already is the first fall guy. If it doesn't get better when he's gone, like Tanner Engstrom will be the next one. And if there's a veteran offensive coordinator out there that they feel like they can go get, like I can't say certainly that they would not fire him. I don't think that Tanner Engstrom will be fired. I believe Aaron Glenn believes in him. But this is always the risk that you also bring in whenever you have a first-time play caller because you don't really know what you're going to get. You don't really know how they're going to adjust when teams see what they're going to throw at them. And Tanner needs to be better. He's shown some signs of creativity. He's better than Nathaniel Hackett. Not a high bar, but he is better than him. If I'm predicting right now, no, I don't think he gets fired. But ask me again at the end of the season. I don't know. I might have a different answer.
Bro, you could take a piece of chalk and draw a line on your driveway, and that's the bar that you got to step over to pass Nathaniel Hackett.
Hey, he's better than the last guy. It's an improvement. That's all I'm saying.
There you go. And a remarkable step back from where LaFleur was, who is loving life right now in L.A. Zach, say it all the time. Place to be is YouTube to watch this show because you can interact with us with the comment section. Brian Pincus, our producer, who is producing the show, threw a couple questions at us here that I want you to answer. This is from Rennie Paris. Do you think the Jets can trade a 4th-round pick for Shedeur Sanders to see what he has the rest of the season? God, no. Do not do that. That is, you do not.
He said, can they? He said, can they? Yes, they can. But,
or they can. You don't want to do that.
But no, they will not be doing that. The guy was drafted in the 6th round, by the way. So what are you doing?
Here's what I like. MLUC. Bring back Mike White. Sell out crowd. Win games. Win all games. Win Super Bowl. Jets are back. All he had. He ended that after sellout crowd. I added the rest because that's what would happen if the Jets brought back Mike White, who's now on the Panthers, right?
Yeah, he signed with their practice squad. He has a shot. It was kind of funny that the Jets on Jets crime when the Bengals traded for Joe Flacco, cut Mike White, cut Brett Ripien, just like all Jets quarterbacks. But yes, bring back Mike White always. I mean, from a media perspective, it doesn't get better than that guy.
Great dude, so. just a great human being. Another one of those two is just a really, really good guy. Moving on, appreciate everybody watching on YouTube. Appreciate all you guys watching this show. It's been awesome to see the interaction and the growth of it throughout the course of this second season. It's been awesome having you on as well, Zach, which is kind of cool. It's been a lot of losing. A lot of people probably don't really want to talk about the Jets, but the fact they come on here to listen to us talk about the Jets has been really, really fun, and we hope that we continue it. So X, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere you watch us, we appreciate it. Cool thing about YouTube, though, is that little comment section, which we just had. So you guys keep firing your questions away. We will continue to take them throughout the show. Brian's monitoring that. Shout out Brian in the comment section. He's booing it for us today. We talk about this topic a lot, this next one, Zach. I've gone from ridiculous to be concerned, slightly concerned, okay concerned, to the concern level growing in each week, and it's with Aaron Glenn. I am nowhere near them being one and done with him. I'm not. I've stressed that on this show. I've argued and fought about it with you. I think he still comes back even if they go 0-17. Based off of how Woody Johnson described the state of the 0-7 Jets and putting all of the blame on Justin Fields, I feel even stronger that no matter what, Aaron Glenn is coming back. Yeah. That does not mean he isn't without his warts in the first year. Talked about it earlier in the show. The fact that you have an entire coaching staff that you yourself have handpicked and boasted and bragged about how good this coaching staff is going to be and why you brought everybody in. And when you have to make the biggest decision of your coaching career, you're calling other people instead of trusting. The Jets picked you to be their head coach. They're trusting your decisions and what you innately can do, and you decide to call everybody else to find out what to do at quarterback. I think that's a red flag. I genuinely believe that. The in-game decision-making, the wishy-washy flip-flop back and forth on are the Jets aggressive, are the Jets not aggressive. They're going for it on 4th and 5. Then they're letting the clock run out again at midfield instead of taking a Hail Mary after a week before they said they wanted to take the shot at Hail Mary. The quotes and the brash and the boldness that he said all throughout the offseason. Remember, he wanted a quarterback who was a winner. That's what he said, Zach, at his introductory press conference. So they sign a quarterback who now 7 games in has the worst record, worst winning percentage of any starting quarterback of 50-plus starts or something like that with Justin Fields. What are the other ones I have now? He said at the NFL Combine their goal is to win now. Remember, we're going to win now. They're 0-7. Will McDonald breakout was coming because of quote-unquote coaching. We have not seen Will since the first game of the season. And this was going to be a team that everybody could be proud of. Well, dude, the stands are empty, so I don't think that's going to be the case. I can't genuinely sit here and instead of having impressive soundbite clips where he's just being argumentative with the media and brash with the media and the one-liners of the we're going to do it because that's what we're going to do, I don't know what the Jets do well because of their head coach. I don't. I really don't, and I think that's troubling.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think he's learning on the job, and so that's not to say it won't get better. It could get better.
I could look like an idiot in a year off of this, but if we're assessing where things are after 7 games.
We can only base things on evidence that we already have. We can't predict the future. So he's never been a head coach before, and he came in here thinking like it was going to be maybe easier than it has been. Yep. And he learned pretty quickly that he came into a situation that was a little more fragile than he realized. He came into a situation where, while I think this team is definitely more talented than the 2021 Lions were, this also is a team with holes that they underestimated. The fact that they didn't go and get a second receiver, the fact that they didn't get a backup defensive end, the fact that they all these different things that we've talked about ad nauseum. They failed in a lot of ways
put that
to
stuff on Muji when Glenn's got final say on the roster.
Yeah. That was kind of my point I was about to make. Like this is Aaron Glenn's show. He's made that clear from the get-go. He got rid of all the big personalities from the locker room. He made it clear, Aaron Rodgers, I agreed with the decision, but, part of the reason he told Aaron Rodgers he was getting rid of him because he didn't want him to second guess him in the back of the room while he was talking to the team. So he wanted it to be clear, like, my word is gospel and everybody will listen to me. And so far that hasn't worked. And so the biggest question is always with these coaches, have they lost the locker room? I don't think we're there yet, but if you keep losing, your message starts to fall on deaf ears. And when your message is falling on deaf ears, that's kind of the death knell for any coach. And so he's getting into dangerous territory. I know they keep talking about, I believe that my message is getting through because Wednesday through Friday, we're busting our ass. Well, the Jets are, 100 years in a row Super Bowl champions from Wednesday to Friday, but that doesn't matter if you don't win on Sunday. And we don't know that these practices are as good as they say because we don't get to watch them. We watch warm-ups. So for all I know, I don't know that they're actually competing that hard in practice. Maybe they are, but that doesn't matter. You're competing against each other, and this is a losing team. So you have a bunch of losing players competing against each other, and it doesn't mean anything on Sunday. And so, the mark of a good coach is a team that looks prepared. The mark of a good coach is a team that looks ready to go from quarter one because the beginning of a game, that's coaching because that's scripted, especially on offense. And Aaron Glenn says the last 4 minutes of each half are on the head coach. They're the head coaches. That's where he kind of takes over.
Unless you're not executing, and then it's on the players.
And the before halftime has been an absolute disaster. It's hard to judge the end of the game because a lot of times that's where they've gotten their production when they've been down by double digits. But the end of half has been a disaster, and we alluded to it earlier. Like I feel like I'm losing my mind on the Hail Mary stuff. Like, what does it hurt to attempt a Hail Mary? Just going, like, I think in this last one, I wasn't watching the TV copy, but somebody told me that the ref, went to Aaron Glenn to see if he was calling a timeout, and he, waved him off. That is where you lose players, is where it feels like you're giving up. We just got sacked twice. We were just trying to get to the locker room. There was some confusion in London about whether it was a first down or not, and we decided rather than deal with the confusion, let's just go to the locker room. We're getting the ball back anyway. No, that is not how you operate. You try and get points at all costs. You're a team that's not scoring. And even the 4th and 5 where they go for it, I get it to a degree being aggressive. You're 0-6. Why not? Well, also you have a kicker who's automatic, and 4th and 5. I don't know that I trust that Justin Fields can complete a 5-yard pass. So kick the field goal, get the points in the first quarter. If it's the fourth quarter, that's a different conversation. So I just think a lot of the decisions he's been making have been the wrong ones. And like I said, that's not to say there's not hope that it'll get better. He absolutely could be learning from his mistakes. You hope that he's doing some self-reflection, but we just haven't seen any evidence of that translating on Sundays yet.
No, because it's not getting better. That's the thing that I struggle with, is that the same warts and wrinkles that we criticized Aaron Glenn for in the opener are still there. They're not. It's like he's not learning. It's like he's not getting better. It's that if you can't phone a friend and find out from them what to do, he doesn't know how to fix it himself. And I don't know if that's just such an extreme level of self-confidence that he feels that he is smarter than everybody else and he's just going to figure it out. And I don't know if the calling people is the humility that he needs, but you'd like to think that when the Jets entrust their franchise and give Aaron Glenn the control that they have given him, he has far more control than the last few coaches they've had in this building have had. You'd like to see more than what you've seen from him. And what I keep going back to, Zach, is that the 2019-2020 seasons for the Jets were bad. Now, Adam Gase's first year, I think they were 1-7 at one point, or 1-6, and they finished 7-9. They got hot beating up on some bad teams. The next year was the horrific 2-14 year. That team, I remember talking to Adam and getting to Adam and the defense of Gase and why not to give up on Gase after 2019 or even at points in 2020 was that the talent wasn't there. There are these similarities being drawn between the Jets this year and the Lions when Dan Campbell first took over, and the Jets this year and the 2020 Jets. What I struggle so mightily with is that you can't compare the talent. You can't. I've got the team leaders brought up here in 2020. Sam Darnold's your starting quarterback. We all knew that about Sam and what he's turned into. The leading rusher for the Jets that year was Frank Gore. That was their leading rusher. Their top three receivers were Jamison Crowder, Rashad Perryman, and Braxton Berrios with Denzel Mims casually scooting in there. Chris Herndon was still the tight end. Your offensive line was the worst offensive line I have ever seen, and I've covered some horrific offensive lines. It was that bad. They didn't have anything they could rely on. Left tackle, right tackle, interior offensive line. And then the defense, Neville Hewitt was the Jets' leading tackler that year. He's actually still in the Giants practice squad right now, but Neville Hewitt's your linebacker. The person who led in sacks, let me click on this one. Oh, Quinnen Williams. Terrell Basham was the second guy who led in sacks. Nathan Shepard, these guys, like Jordan Jenkins, remember him? Like, these are the guys that the Jets were relying on. It's not the case right now. They have Garrett Wilson, although he's out right now, they have Garrett Wilson at receiver. Even without Braylon Allen, you still have a really good running back duo in Isaiah Davis and Breece Hall, a group that you bragged about endlessly. Mason Taylor, the tight end. The offensive line is good. That's a good offensive line. You have a wart at quarterback, but the rest should be able to be masked up and making that up. And the defense is getting better. We're going to touch on that in a little bit, Zach. But there's far too much talent on the Jets roster right now for this team to be playing like they are. And I feel like the Jets are just reverting back into this, well, we need pieces, we need this, we need that, we need this. No. The benefit of this job, the reason why this job was considered so desirable at both GM and head coach was because the pieces were in place. Well, Glenn was handed pieces, and he's doing nothing with it.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a story last week. A lot of people got mad because they only read the headline because I wrote that he's coming back. And I kind of dove into a lot of the problems that they're having in there. And he alludes to this being similar to the Lions situation a lot. And I went back and you look at who the Jets have that either had made a Pro Bowl recently or have been Pro Bowlers in the past. That includes Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen Williams, Quincy Williams. I believe there's one more. Sauce Gardner, I don't think I mentioned him. And they had like quality starters as well. When you have Jamie and Sherwood, you have Will McDonald and a couple other guys. You go back and look at that Lions roster.
Jermaine's a Pro Bowl.
Jermaine, yeah. You go back at the Lions roster. They had Jared Goff who had made a Pro Bowl, and they had T.J. Hawkinson who had made a Pro Bowl. That's it. Like not a single other guy in the roster had made a Pro Bowl before. And if you go through the roster, a lot of those guys, a lot of them became good later on, but they were not good. The point being, the talent level is a lot higher here. He inherited a team that had a lot higher talent level. Yes, you don't have a good quarterback, but Aaron Glenn picked him. You don't have a great number 2 receiver, but the Jets decided Josh Reynolds was good enough as your number 2 receiver, and they've made some other mistakes along the way too. So, a lot of this, like we said, falls back on Aaron Glenn, like them being this bad. It's not all on Justin Fields. Aaron Glenn holds a lot of the responsibility.
And I know Woody pointed to the fact that the Jets don't have a quarterback and who could have success with Justin Fields and who could do this. It's probably not the perfect example because he's a Hall of Fame coach, but Mike Tomlin was 4-2 with Justin Fields a year ago and far less talent on offense around him because Breece Hall would have started for the Steelers last year. Garrett Wilson would have started for the Steelers last year. Mason Taylor probably starting with Freiermuth for the Steelers last year. A lot of the members of the Jets offensive line, if not all of the Jets offensive linemen, starting for the Steelers last year. Tom was 4-2 with Justin Fields. He then benched Justin Fields and went to the playoffs with Russell Wilson. So coaching does matter, and I just can't. No one having success with Fields, I can't buy into that when the Steelers literally we're off to a 4-2 start with him and then went to the playoffs with him. I think this is the first time you and I have talked about this, Zach, because we're going to move on now from Glenn. I don't think there's really anything. You have anything else to add about that, or anything else to talk about with that?
Although as you were talking, I just realized Justin Fields was benched after 6 games. Last year and this year, technically, because he didn't play one game. So after 6 starts, he was benched. So there you go.
Consistency. Even though I didn't even think about this, but I guess it's probably too late now. But Aaron Glenn just being so vehement and so aggressive over the notion, the thought, how asinine and egregious and ridiculous it would be for the Jets to even consider benching Justin Fields. And then literally benching him after 12 more passes and 2 more quarters is like that. That's another thing where I'm like, what? Like, there's so many times I'm like scratching my head, being like, what is going on? This is the pause I was talking about, though. You and I don't think have really talked about the draft yet, have we? Have we done that yet? I think we've mentioned it, like the Jets would hold the number 1 pick per Tankathon, but I don't think we've gotten into it. I believe this question was texted to us on Sunday when the Giants were playing and the Jets had already lost. Brian, who's producing this show, might have been there, and I want to get your take first, and then I'm gonna go back on it myself. Do you think the Jets regret passing on Jackson Dart and not drafting Jackson Dart?
I mean, if based on what we're seeing, yes. Do they regret it? Yes. Yeah, then yeah, you absolutely regret it. I mean, he looks like the exact quarterback they need right now. He not only is not afraid of anything, but he's also mobile. So, I mean, he's better than I could have imagined. I think the Jets probably, along with a lot of other teams. But, I think that's something that started to come up a little bit because you look across town and you see a quarterback playing well that was on the board when the Jets were drafting. Armand Membo has turned into a pretty solid player. I think he's going to be really good, but they don't have a quarterback, and it looks like the Giants do. And it's hard not to think about that because the Jets have been looking for a quarterback forever. So, yeah, I mean, I think they do regret it, but, this is the kind of thing where you go back and you look at your scouting report and you say, what do we get wrong here? And you hope that they're taking those lessons.
Well, and I agree with you. So hindsight, absolutely, because Jackson Dart does look like, he looks like a guy. How good he's going to be, we've seen guys look like guys and then not be guys. We've experienced that over the years, Zach, but he does look pretty legit. I give the Jets a lot of slack here and a lot of leeway because if the Giants knew Jackson Dart was going to look like this, they're not waiting until the 20s to trade up for him. If the Giants knew Jackson Dart was going to look like this, they're probably taking him 3 and not drafting Abdul Carter. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
This was a quarterback in Dart that the vast majority of people had a day 2 grade on. They felt he was going to be a second-round pick. They saw him as incredibly green, going to need a full year plus to develop and learn and grow, and then maybe he could be a competent starting quarterback. Nobody thought he would look like Jackson Dart is. And he's still learning. He's still warty. He's still wrinkly. There's still things in his game that need to be fixed and ironed out. But Brian Dable deserves the credit for Jackson Dart. Nobody else. And this goes into a bigger point, which we're going to get to, Zach, actually in this segment, because I'm very curious how you feel this as well. Joe Schoen, there are clips that the Giants released from their draft room where Joe Schoen and the Giants have now reached the point, they've already taken Abdul Carter, they're getting to the point where they need to trade up in the draft where they're going to trade up for Jackson Dart. Joe Schoen is speaking to Brian Dable, and he's saying, nobody's going to care about a third-round pick if you are right. Meaning your evaluation of Jackson Dart is right. You want Jackson Dart. You think Jackson Dart's a franchise quarterback. You wanted Jackson Dart 3rd overall. If you are right and all it costs is a third-round pick, nobody cares. He doubles down and he makes another comment to him. He goes, well, he passed all of your tests. It was very clear from the Giants' evaluation process. I don't think that Joe Schoen didn't like Jackson Dart, but the person within the Giants building who loved him, the person in the Giants building that was slamming the table for him, the person in the Giants building who was not going to let them leave their draft without him was Brian Dable. He was an offensive-minded coach, a quote-unquote quarterback guru. At the minimum, he knows a quarterback that works within his offense. He studied, he evaluated, he identified Jackson Dart as his guy, and he said the Giants need to go out there and get him. So no, I don't think that the Jets should regret not passing on Jackson Dart, because I think that's hindsight. I don't think the Jets failed in not drafting Jackson Dart because the Steelers still need a quarterback in the future. They didn't pick him. The Browns didn't pick him. All these other teams. I think the Titans probably, if they redid it, probably take him 1 and not take Cam Ward. So there are a ton of teams that are in the same boat as the Jets saying, oh, we wish we did. But the bigger point that I see in this is that the Giants had a coach in Dable that identified and was able to scout and evaluate the quarterback and picked him. Do you trust, Zach, Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrand and Darren Muji to do that for the Jets? To be able to find, because they're probably going to be picking top 5, to be able to identify of these 2 or 3 options that they could potentially have at quarterback, to find the Jackson Dart of the draft and not the Shador, although Dylan Gabriel looked pretty good last week, but the Shador, the Cam Ward's really struggling, to find the quarterback that can really have the success right off the bat. Do you trust them to do that?
I mean, it's one of those things that, we have no evidence to believe that we should trust them. And like you just alluded to, the thing that fails these quarterbacks, as Kevin O'Connell said, organizations fail quarterbacks much more than quarterbacks fail organizations. And so you need to have an environment that is conducive to a quarterback being good when he gets here. And the Jets do have some of the pieces that would lead you that way. They have the offensive line, I think, I do think a lot of the problems with the offensive line have to do with the quarterback holding it too long. Hasn't been perfect. Olu's been struggling, but this is a solid O-line. You have a number one receiver. You have a solid tight end in Mason Taylor. Who knows what the running back situation will be next year? But we don't know if their offensive coordinator is the right guy. We don't know if the head coach is the right guy. And we don't know if the GM is capable of putting the right supporting staff around him yet. And so, until they answer those questions, you're risking, obviously, hurting this guy's development when he comes in. But, if Woody Johnson believes in this group, he has to believe that they are going to build an environment conducive to a rookie quarterback coming in and playing well right away. I think there are quarterbacks in I do think you need to find – I think that focusing so much on just getting a mobile quarterback is a fallacy of defensive coaches all the time. They just need for this offense to work, Justin Fields is not a quarterback that fits in the Lions offense. It's like a timing-based offense where the quarterback's supposed to get the ball where it needs to be and let the playmakers make plays. And that is not that's why Jared Goff worked, and that's why Justin Fields did not work. And I think a guy like Fernando Mendoza, it seems like is kind of in the Jared Goff mold from Indiana. I haven't watched enough of him to say that definitively, but you need a quarterback that's going to be able to go through his progressions and still make a play if the first read is not there, and to understand where he has to go with the ball and to not be afraid to throw it. So if you get the guy with the right mindset, I think you can make it work with Tanner Engstrand. I do. But who's the right guy? Will they pick the right guy is the question.
I keep now. Last point on this, because I do want you to just expand a little bit on the kid from Indiana. There is the chance that just from watching the Jets, you get an inflated opinion of them and an over-evaluated of the players, and they're not as good as you think they are. I've said this now on the last two JFDs. I said this on Mailbag with Janae Coakley. I genuinely do believe that there is not a better position within the NFL of a team that is going to be selecting organically with the top 5 selection or a top 5 pick. Let me rephrase this. There is no better situation to put a young rookie quarterback into for a team that is going to be organically selecting within the top 5 picks of this year's draft than the Jets. Because they have a number 1 wide receiver in Garrett Wilson. They have Mason Taylor. They have Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis coming back next year, and they have 3/5 to 4/5 of their offensive line solidified. If they go out there in free agency and sign a legitimate number 2 receiver, or they use another draft pick on a number 2 wide receiver, I don't know where you can say the circle here, this is the giant mistake, or this is the giant issue on the defense, or offense, I'm sorry. There will be bugaboos that pop up here and there, but every team has issues. Every team has their problems. Every team has a spot where you can say that's a perceived weakness. The Eagles are one of those teams that can say that this year too. But you still can, if your weakness is not as weak as other teams, that's when you can have success. And I think the Jets offense would be in that category. Talk a little bit about that kid, though. I don't like him because I think he has terrible swag, and that's all that I care about. When
I saw you say that. He seems like a character.
On our scouting system, baby. Found Christian Watson. Watson.
He seems to me like the one that makes the most. I can't say I've watched a lot of his tape. I know a lot of fans are really into the Alabama kid, Ty Simpson. I don't know enough about him to have an opinion. And same with the Oregon kid, Dante Moore. Those seem to be the top guys. Nobody was talking about any of those three a few months ago when they called this the best quarterback class. So that could still change. But he's a tall quarterback. He seems to have a really good arm. Seems to be a decent athlete, and he seems to be able to make all the throws. So he's the guy I'm going to start watching a little more because I think he makes a lot of sense for what the Jets need. But I don't know what kind of quarterback. I don't know if Aaron Glenn is dead set on a mobile quarterback. Does he like Lenore Sellers? Seems like fans don't, but he's a mobile quarterback with a big arm. I don't know. I'm very curious to see if they're going to keep going with we just want a mobile quarterback, or if they're going to really just focus on a guy that fits the system best.
Well, they're going to do what Aaron Glenn wants. That's what we know they're going to do. He's going to have final say. I have been volleying back and forth on this, Zack, and I appreciate anywhere you guys are watching, Facebook, X, SMY.TV. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to SMY's YouTube channel. Big reason why is you get more of me with Jets Mailbag. We're going to be taking your questions with Janae Coakley. Also, the Putback with Ian Begley. Knicks are starting this week. Hope for New York sports again. Keep an eye on that, as Ian does an incredible job with that show, and everybody who kind of rotates in and out there with him. I didn't know how desperate the Jets were going to be to dump players at the trade deadline this year. And the big reason for it, Zack, is how bad it's been for this team for the last couple of years. I don't think they can truly go belly up. With that said, I talked to a source this week who said if the Jets are sitting there 0-8, 0-9, there's a good chance a mandate comes from above that says basically anyone with value that you do not believe is going to be on this team in 2 or 3 years, trade them. Because we're not going to pay them. There's no point in trying to round it. Just do whatever you can to get A, the most possible draft capital you can, and B, also just lose the games to ensure you get the number 1 pick and we can get the quarterback and move on. That's what I was told this week. It kind of made me change how I was thinking about the draft where, you know what? Keep Breece Hall for the rest of this year. Let him walk, get a 4th-round compensatory instead of a 5th round this year. Play out Jermaine Johnson this year. Don't necessarily trade him. If the Jets lose to Cincy, which I think both of us think is going to happen, I think we could be approaching fire sale time for the Jets, where a lot of these guys that maybe were on the fence of being traded do actually get traded. I think that could happen.
Yeah, I'm just mostly interested to see whether that they'd actually trade guys that are under contract beyond this season. I think Michael Carter II is probably gone. I think especially because he probably lost his starting job. I'm curious if John Simpson would be on the move because I think you could get something for a quality starting offensive lineman who is going to be a free agent. There's Quincy Williams, I think makes a lot of sense, especially for a team like the 49ers and Robert Sala's defense, and they don't have Fred Warner. Like I could see Quincy Williams getting traded. The big questions would be Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald would be like the 3 big guys under contract who probably have the most value on this team of guys that you're actually willing to trade.
Yeah.
What would it take to trade them, and would you do it if you got that? If somebody met that match, you only trade Quinnen Williams if you're getting a first, probably, or a bundle of seconds.
Interesting you bring that up. Yeah. Sorry, keep going, Zach. I'm sorry. I'll get to that.
No. I mean, it has to be the right value. I wouldn't trade Jermaine Johnson or Quinnen Williams personally, but if someone comes to you with I don't know what you're looking for with Jermaine, if it's a 2 and a 4. It's hard to say no to that because that's pretty good value. But I also just think Jermaine's a guy you build around, not a guy you trade. So that's kind of the question I have. Will McDonald is someone I also wouldn't trade because I don't really know what his value is, and I also think he's a good pass rusher, and you keep a guy like that.
So I made calls around the league last week and then checked in with guys again this week to gauge that interest. Now, these are not Jets sources. This is not what the Jets are looking for because I don't think what the Jets are looking for is at this point pertinent. I think what teams are willing to give up for these players is more pertinent. I think that's more noteworthy. That's more interesting. Breece Hall, I was told, Zach, you're likely looking at a 4th-round pick as the best-case scenario. And most of the people I touched base with found it very hard to believe the Jets were going to be able to get that. A 5th-round pick is most likely for Breece Hall. The reasoning for it is you have durability concerns with him. You also need to pay him after this year, so he's a rental player. I'd keep an eye on the Chargers there with him, though, because that's a team that makes a lot of sense for. Jermaine Johnson, I know that there have been ingoing and outgoing calls from Florham Park about Jermaine Johnson. This hasn't just been teams calling the Jets. The Jets have also been calling people. I think I know that Jermaine Johnson right now is viewed around the league as a player that is available for the right price. I don't know what the Jets are asking for from Jermaine Johnson. The team that I touched base with who had direct communication and discussions with the Jets simply told me, quote, too high. That's what I was told, was that they were asking for too much and it was too high of a pick and they were not going to go there. A reasonable offer for Jermaine Johnson, I was told, is a 3rd-round pick. You might find a team that's super desperate and goes at 2, but again, you're talking about a player who's a good, not great pass rusher, good run stuffer, coming off an Achilles injury and also already had, was it a calf already this year? Zach?
No, it was ankle. It was ankle.
Ankle, okay, ankle. Sorry, I think it was originally thought of a calf or something like that. But Jermaine Johnson, probably a 3rd-round pick. Will McDonald, I was told 2 or 3, depending on your value and your evaluation of him. He's not an every down player. He is a one-trick, rush up the field, go get the quarterback guy who is a liability against the run. And by the way, this year he's not rushing the passer particularly well. He doesn't have a sack since the opener. He has just one quarterback hit one quarterback hit in each of the last 3 games. Not like he's Abdul Carter right now, who's not getting sacks but is getting a ton of pressures. Will McDonald isn't even necessarily doing that. You mentioned Quinnen Williams. I thought the same thing. 1st-round pick, plus 1 and a 3, 1 and a 4. I was told by somebody very tied into this situation that the Jets probably looking at a 2 for him. And the reasoning for that is there's no real substantial guaranteed money left on his deal after this year. Teams know there are rumblings around there that Quinnen Williams is currently unhappy. That's the perception outside of Florham Park. We haven't talked to Quinnen to ask him if he's unhappy. He 100% would not tell the media the truth if he's unhappy or not. But the perception out there is Quinnen's not necessarily happy. The Jets, it's known that the Jets have rebuffed his desires to have his contract restructured and adjusted and more guaranteed money added. So if he's going to be traded, it's because Quinnen wants out and the guaranteed money isn't necessarily there as they would expect. I don't know if I still trade him for a 2-man. He's so good. Like, Quinnen's really, really good. And if you move him, that sends, I think, a terrible message to the locker room. I really do. And I was on board of, hey, watch him to be moved, watch him to the Cowboys, watch him something like that. But if it's only a 2, that's a hard sell to the locker room.
Out of all the things you just said, I think trading Will McDonald for a 2 or 3 honestly makes the most sense to me because I think he is what he is. And I don't know that he's dominant enough to hold on to him if you don't believe in him necessarily. So, and they don't play him on running downs; they only play him on passing downs. So, I would trade Will McDonald for that kind of value. I personally wouldn't trade Jermaine for a 3. I wouldn't trade Quinnen for a 2, and so that's kind of where I'm at.
Last 2 here are Michael Carter. I heard day 3 pick. Alan Lazard at best case scenario would be a pick swap, and Quincy Williams also a day 3 pick. Linebackers just aren't particularly valued. Yeah. And Quincy's also a scheme-specific player. Injured and a scheme-specific player. He is a hair-on-fire, bull-in-China shop player, and that's why he worked so well with Robert Saleh. It was attack, 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 attack. When you got to start processing and thinking and more, that's kind of where Quincy falls out of place, so there's only some defenses he's going to work in. Let's move on, Zach, to the final topic today. It is our Week 8 preview for the Jets versus the Bengals. It's been a very negative show, I think, to this point. Do you agree? Probably.
Maybe a little.
Understandably so. We can talk a little positive if you want to run point on this. The Jets' defense has turned it around. They really have. Hats off to the players. Hats off to Steve Wilkes. Hats off to Aaron Glenn if he's really involving himself here in the defense, because where they were the first couple of weeks compared to where they were the last 2, they held the Panthers to 13 points, who scored 30 the week before versus the Cowboys. They held the Broncos to 13 points. Actually, no, they held the Broncos out of safety. So they held the Broncos to 13 points. They just scored 33 versus the Giants. So the defense is playing not only well, they're taking offenses to score really well and containing them again. It's been promising to see. That's a real promise. It's going to be a big test this week, though, against Joe Flacco, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, especially without Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, I mean, not having Sauce against that receiver room is tough. I mean, Joe Flacco just went off on the Steelers. Yep. If you have Sauce, I feel a little better about the Jets' chances in this game, but I'm really concerned. I mean, not having Garrett and Sauce, they haven't ever not had both of those guys in the same game. Garrett actually has never missed a game before this last week. That was his first start that he didn't get to play. So, yeah, the Bengals are not good. They don't have a good defense. I mean, Joe Flacco is their quarterback, which I wouldn't necessarily say is a good thing usually, but I just don't see the Jets on the road. The Bengals are well rested. Although I did see a stat that they've lost, like the Bengals have lost something like 7 in a row on when they have the rest advantage. Like they have like some crazy losing streak. Shout out to Jay Morrison, who used to work for The Athletic. I saw he had that. So that's something to think about. Like I do think the Jets are going to be competitive in this game. Actually, like, I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I don't see them beating the Bengals at the end of the day.
No, if they do, this defensive line and this pass rush has to win the game because
which is possible. Thomas, like Joe Flacco can't move, so
correct. And like A.Z. Thomas is going to see, people have been clamoring for him. He's going to see more action with Sauce Gardner out. Brandon Stevens has really bounced back after a difficult first couple of games of the season. They found something in Brownlee there in the nickel, which is why they're probably going to move on from Michael Carter. But if Joe Flacco is allowed to sit back there clean in the pocket, he's going to eat up the Jets defense. I don't see them containing Joe Flacco. I see Joe Flacco torching the Jets if he stands in the pocket and can throw. If Quinnen Williams can push the middle there and like just destroy the middle, and then you have Flacco drifting back a little bit, which allows Will McDonald to come around the edge for some strip sacks, Jermaine Johnson to get going. That's when you can see the Jets take off. But they need that pass rush to play big, man. They need to. I think that's the key to the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's played better the last 2 weeks, certainly, since Jermaine came back. Will still hasn't made like a huge impact, but yeah, I mean the Bengals don't have a great O-line either. Like this is not like you're going against this great O-line. So if you want to believe the Jets have a chance, you believe it because their defense has been a lot better and that you can get the Joe Flacco and you can force them to make mistakes. I remember that game, they got killed by the Browns in 23, the year Rodgers was hurt, and Flacco had a good game statistically, but I know the Jets were angry because they felt like he had a horseshoe up his butt, and he was just like getting lucky on all these plays where they should have been picks. And so Flacco is bound to have some really bad throws, but he also is kind of a good fit for Jamar Chase because he can just throw it up to him.
He's a gunslinger. He's a gunslinger.
Yeah. So and that's why I imagine they love him in there. I mean, Joe Flacco is one of the people love him in every locker room he's in. It's kind of an underrated part about Joe Flacco.
You covered him, right? Yeah, you covered him.
I did. Yeah, I did. Funny thing about Joe Flacco, how long he's been in the league. He was like deep into his tenure as like the starting quarterback when Tyrod Taylor was drafted by the Ravens to be his backup. Like way back when, and Tyrod Taylor's about to start against him on Sunday. It's funny how full circle anything with Joe Flacco and like Aaron Rodgers, it becomes full circle because they've been in the league for so long. But yeah, I mean, if the Jets were ever going to win a game, now's a good time. Go into the bye. You can act like we have some momentum finally and feel a little better about yourself. I don't feel great about them, and like I've said for weeks now, I'll believe they can beat somebody when they do it. So.
That's what I was about to say, because where is the piece of paper that so the Jets remaining schedule, because one of the questions I didn't ask you, Zach, is how possible 0-17 is. Again, if that 2020 Jets team did not go 0-17, I don't think this Jets team is going to go 0-17.
Yeah.
But losing to the Bengals, having the bye, and then losing to a Browns team, that's going to be such a challenging game because of how good the Browns defense is. That's when you get into at Patriots, at Ravens, first Falcons, who are a very feisty, good team, Jeff Ulbrich revenge game, Dolphins, at Jaguars, who, again, feisty team, at Saints, feisty team, versus Patriots, at Bills finale. You think they're going to take one, but you really could be looking at 1-16, 2-15. It could be that bad if they don't win one of these next two games, so we'll see. Pick time. Brooke made her selection at dinner today. We're going through this thing, Zach, where you put the camera in front of her and she screams. She does not like her photos being taken of her. She doesn't like videos being taken of her. But if I slide the two papers across from her and ask her who she thinks, then she picks one and explains it to me. So orange and purple are her two favorite colors right now. So Jets really screwed for a pick when they play the Ravens. Instant pick was the Bengals. Instantly picked the orange Bengals. She also loves Tigers. So that is her pick. I'm riding with Brooke as well. I think that the Bengals are going to win this one and win this one big. The Jets, I would think, have a chance if Garrett and Sauce were playing. I don't see how okay, Stevens covers Chase. Like AZ Thomas on Higgins. I don't see that working at all, man. Actually, Stevens had a good game against Chase a while back. Wasn't that like the big thing? When he was with the Ravens, I think he has been
pretty good lately too, but that's with Sauce on the field too. But I was hoping I wasn't sure what the line was. I was hoping it would be like 6.5, and then I would have been like, okay, maybe I'll take Jets plus 6.5, but I'm not doing it 4.5. It's too low. So I'll say Bengals minus 4.5 as well. So we're all going chalk.
That sucks. We gotta start changing this up, man. You built that big lead on us
the Jets stink. The Jets stink. We need them to not stink so much, and then we'll have different picks.
Yeah, this is something, man. 0-7. You and I were texting about this after the game when they lost and it went final. I cannot believe that they're 0-7. Again, maybe I'm just so inflating the talent, and maybe there is a portion of that, dude. But like, I still think they're a talented team, and they should not be 0-7. They shouldn't. But if they lose here to the Bengals and then they lose to the Browns and then all of a sudden they start selling people and trading people and then, Garrett turns all of a sudden he's on the injured reserve and this guy's and then they start playing for draft picks, maybe we do get 0-17. But, man, that is a tough one to sell because this fan base, I see it on my mentions. I see it from talking to people. My neighbor actually down the street's a big Jet fan, talking to him. It's ugly, dude. It's getting ugly and it's just getting worse.
Yep. It's again, for our sake, I would love a win, but I don't feel great about their chances. So
yeah, neither do I, buddy. Well, I do feel great about this show, though. It was nice having you back, man. It's excited. I think we're in a nice little rhythm here. I think we've kind of figured out each other's mojo, and the show's taken off, and people seem to be liking it, even though the Jets aren't. I mean, look, people are. What is it right now? We got. I don't track YouTube, but 17,000 views already on X, which is pretty impressive considering the Jets are 0-7. So I appreciate everybody who's tuned in and watched, whether that was on X, like I just mentioned, SNY.TV, Facebook, or YouTube. The cool thing about YouTube, guys, and I say this all the time, make sure you subscribe to SNY's YouTube channel, because not only can you watch Jets Final Drive there and interact with us throughout the show, you also get access to Jets Mailbag, which is coming your way later this week with Janae Coakley and myself. We're going to be taking all of your questions on the state of the Jets. I know there's a lot. I know there's going to be more negativity. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can this week. Quarterback, Glenn, all that fun stuff. We'll be talking about it on Jets Mailbag this week. But you also get all of SNY's other digital shows. You can see Baseball Night in New York, clips from Sports Night, clips from the Jets pregame, postgame live, and Ian Begley's putback, which the Knicks are starting this week. So let's go Knicks. Even though, Zach, I know you're a Sixers fan. Other place they can find you, Zach. How's flight plan going? You guys enjoying that part of the Badlands family?
I mean, we're enjoying being part of Badlands, but it's, as you know, potting when a team is this bad is tough. So, we're trying. But yeah,
I feel so bad for Tim, dude. Like Tim's not. He's a Boston guy. Like, he's not a Jets dude, and he suddenly has just been from all the way back to when I was with him in Can't Wait. I was like, they offered me a podcast. Like, I need a co-host. They gave me Tim, and he's just been stuck in this dysfunction ever since. Like, I feel really bad for him.
Well, last year we did a pod where we talked about anything but the Jets, and so we might have to do another one. I think we did it with you, actually. Yeah, we might have to do another one of those where we just. So we might do that again with you. We'll bring you on, talk about anything but the Jets.
Dude, I just got Madden. What if I live stream a Jets rebuild? I know memes from part of my take
okay,
getting fired.
But...
I think he kept getting fired from the Jets. I think I might try to rebuild the Jets and do this and see. I'll put on my. I'll play as Aaron Glenn and snap at you in press conferences and see how you like it. All right. Anyway, this has been Jets Final Drive. You guys can catch us. I say this all the time. On YouTube, SNYX, all that fun stuff. The day after or the day after every single Jets game, travel and things like that can kind of throw that schedule off a little bit. We will be back on Monday, though, because the Jets are home or the Jets are on the road, but I am home because I'm covering Giants-Eagles. So I'll be able to do this Monday, Zach. We'll be covering it at some point in time there Monday, so that's when the next Jets Final Drive will come. Jets Mailbag with Janae Coakley and myself coming your way later this week. We can't wait to see you guys there. A huge, special, unbelievable thanks to our production team. This show would not be possible without them. That's Brian Pincus, who was on the ones and twos. That's a radio term, I think. But Brian was producing this show for us. Sam Candell. Corey Palmer, an executive producer, Jeff Goldman, who is on Cloud 9 now that James Franklin is gone. This has been Jets Final Drive. For Zach Rosenblatt, I'm Connor Hughes. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week.